everyone, this is Neil King from Random Acts of Cartooning, and I'm going to do something different today. Not only am I going to draw this image of the Marvels, the three characters in the new movie, but I'm going to talk about this new movie and how important it is for everybody to get out there and see it. It's a very good movie, it's a great family movie, and I'm hoping that by the end of this discussion, that you may be inclined to go see it. Here we go. So, when I think about this movie, I realize that I am the demographic that Marvel really wants for most of its films. I grew up with the comic books as a kid, and I've seen every single one of the Marvel MCU movies, over 30 movies. I've seen them all on the big screen also. So I am a male, and I am in my 50s, so I grew up looking at everything that Marvel would produce. I was very interested in seeing. Now, one of the things that you must understand, that someone of my age, is I realize how bad all of the things I grew up with were. So whether it was something from the 70s like Wonder Woman and the Hulk and the Spider-Man pieces, any of the live action things that are out there, or the Saturday morning ones that I watched, these were not good in any way. Shazam, ISIS, everything that I probably was watching was not something that necessarily was of a great quality. It was great for a kid to enjoy, and I'm sure parents were like, I can't believe that they like this. But they were great in their own way, and they had very low budgets, and they did what they could do, but really, they were really appealing to a very young audience. They were not trying to appeal to a man in his 50s. Or the big group is 30-year-olds to 60-year-olds, which is really what it's all about with the MCU. And that's an important thing to understand when you're thinking about all the things that come out. So when I I watched a bunch of reviews of the Marvels before I went out to see it. And I was making sure that, no matter what they would have said, I was going to go see that movie anyway, because it's one of the Marvel movies, and I've seen them all. And let me say also that of all the movies that have been out there, all of the Marvel movies, they're not all the best ones. They're not as good as Iron Man, the first Iron Man. They're not as good as Captain America, Winter Soldier, right? Guardians of the Galaxy, they aren't as good as that. There's a few of them, Thor Ragnarok, those are the best ones. And I love all of those best ones, without a doubt. But I have never really been to a Marvel Universe image or some type of a movie that was terrible. I've never seen anything as bad as the things that I grew up with. So I take that point of view compared to what some people look at now, a younger generation, of course, where they're like, they never realized how terrible things used to be, and that they just weren't capable of making the films that we wanted them to make. And I'm not saying that the Marvels, this new movie, is as good, as I was saying, as Thor, like even Thor Ragnarok. This is maybe a middle tier Marvel movie, but it's one of the best family movies I've seen Marvel do. So it is a unique thing, and I think that if I'm going to talk about this movie, I should try to put it into context. So most men of my age, or again 30s to 60s, they aren't going to watch the stuff that's going on in Disney Plus, where you have all of these like little series going on, and that's She-Hulk or Miss Marvel, all those things. And those are really nice little vehicles. They're not like long series. They don't go on for series after series. They're trying to make something out of it. To me, they're building this audience, a younger audience, and those, when you watch those series, they do not have as much violence. They have big themes. They have family themes. They have a lot of things that are really great. Now, for people my age, again, they should try to remember what Disney used to do in the 70s and 80s. They used to have those Disney movies. And when I was very young, they used to have the Kurt Russell movies where they would just go through and you would watch this quick story about something. And we loved it. These were, again, they were not made for adults, and adults could probably find them very boring. But for us, we loved them, and I loved every part of them, and they're clever, and they did lots of funny things and things that couldn't happen, and that's how I felt about this Marvel movie. Is there was very little big chases, big fight scenes. There were very few times. They probably had 3 curse words, maybe, that I was counting through the whole movie. It had so many themes of family and so many things of doing the things right, and people saying they're actually sorry, or that they're going to try to be better, or they're going to they'll work together to become a better person. And Captain Marvel, who's the most powerful one, I loved seeing her beat up on Thanos and Endgame, all those kind of things. It was incredible, and what a spectacular character. But I think what they're trying to do, I believe what they're trying to do with the Marvel stuff now, is to branch out and think about what's going to happen next. Who can come and watch all these films? Should they all be, is one of your major characters going to die? Is all this kind of stuff? To me, this movie, I didn't think any of these characters were going to die. And all the relationships were really, they were very subtle, and there's a lot of payoff into some of the things that I actually had some feelings about, when they were talking to each other and talking to their family and going through some of the things they went through. That's not done in Marvel movies. That's not done in any of these type of science fiction, big budget films. And I think they tried. And I'm not saying that they were completely successful for everything, because they weren't. And this movie could have been better, without a doubt. But it is not one of the worst Marvel movies ever, believe me. And it's far better than any of the DC movies that I've seen over the last few years. I think it has a lot of heart, and it has a lot of the great things that we're used to seeing. So I think that it's important that when you think of a film like this, is that you really try to take in everything and the audience that it's really meant for. And as an adult, you should be saying, who would be a perfect person to see this movie? And as I think about all the time, am I sophisticated enough to see what the audience really is for this? Okay, so I'm about to color this, but first, as I usually do, I talk about important things, and start talking about things that are really great for boys and girls in comics is the Plain Janes. If you haven't seen it, this is just Castellucci and Rugg. Jim Rugg has done a lot of great things. I've met him a couple times at conventions. I don't know him at all, but he does great stuff. Street Angel, Plain Janes, he illustrates just for this one. But this is telling you what is really out there for teens and for high school, all through high school and college, and they're just great. He has a great sense of drama and everything, but this really has a different voice, and this is where comics should be going. And I think that comics will do well. This is an image piece, but the idea of this is really important about all ages things and all the things that you should be looking at, and the variety of styles and everything that they do that Jim Rugg does. But Plain Janes these are all very popular. They've done really well. And I think just beyond the fact that the artwork is great, it's about feelings and it's about thoughts, and it's not just 30 to 60-year-old men reading things. And I also have my, I do comics, and this is one of mine, The Deep End, and I have all my books on Amazon store that you can click onto in the episodes. And this is another thing that I do, so it's an all ages book. And this one is a little girl, and she's getting her swim band, and all the fun things that you can bring into it. It's a fun read. So support all this stuff so that we have a variety of things for everybody, especially the young ones, to get them back into comics, because that's what it's all about. Back to the coloring. Okay, as I go in for the coloring of this sketch, again, this is a very kind of a typical convention sketch that I would usually do. I want to kind of go back into the idea of what I thought was really good about the film. So the strengths of the film, I think the CGI looked great. I think the characters, you can get a good sense of what all their powers do. I think they, as always, and all these MCU things are bringing you to different worlds. They're showing you all these different types of things. You're breezing through very interesting and creative places. But as I was saying, I don't think this is a difficult thing right away to understand what's happening. And I think that in every successful MCU, there can't be too many things going on, and there can't be too many characters that are the same. Now, the reviews that I've seen about this, again, they were saying it's confusing and they're not positive what the whole idea about this. But I do believe that it was simple to understand, just trying to create this kind of a world, and I really appreciate it. I went right along with it. I understood. I didn't know a lot of these other characters are off of it, but because I did watch the Miss Marvel little series that they have on Disney Plus, I was kind of ready. I knew who she was, just as much as I knew who Thor would be or who Captain America is. Now, if you're somebody who hasn't heard of any of these characters before, maybe it was difficult for you to follow something. You're like, who is this person? Even Captain Marvel isn't the one that I grew up with. I mean, it was a male character that they made into a female character. I thought that was smart. I think all of these characters have a little bits of background that are in all the comics, so I appreciate them giving that to us as we go through. But some of the creative parts that were in the film, going to the place where everybody sings and all those kind of things, that's fun. And if you can't have a little fun with these things, I know, right, the third Thor went a little bit far on some of them, it's true. But, we're supposed to be having fun here, and I think those were fun ideas. And I think every place they went through, and how they started working together with their powers because they couldn't figure them out first, that was smart. And you saw three people kind of working through it. And if I was a parent, I would want to show my kids something where all these adults and the youngest character, Miss Marvel, worked with these two adults. They're all young women, but they're all working together. They're all from these different places, and they really cared about each other, especially by the end, and how they had to work with each other, even though they were completely different types of personalities. Even for Captain Marvel character, she was still tough, and they had to kind of wear her down not to be so tough and just to lighten up for some of it, and they'd let that character do that. That's not always the case. I think that's a great part of what Marvel does. They did it with Iron Man. They did it with all these characters. Thor was not as interesting as some of the other guys, but as soon as you got used to his personality, you liked it. I think that's what they did with this movie. So, in the end of all this, as I'm coming down to the end, I just want to say, if you know some young kids, so you're like, oh, we want to go see a movie, this would be a great thing to see, and really ask their opinions afterwards. Try not to go into this as saying, this is supposed to be bad. Everyone says it's bad. But I was looking at Rotten Tomatoes, and people who were seeing it gave it an 86 positive reviews. That means people who actually went kind of liked it. And it's only got a 60-something for Rotten Tomatoes. I like to look at Rotten Tomatoes to get my idea if something's half decent or not. But I just think this is better. I think this is not, I would give this in the 80s or something. I wouldn't have said this is something that's a 62. It's a pretty good movie. It's an 8 out of 10, I would think. And that's a solid movie for something that is not for my demographic. I appreciate Marvel for doing this. I appreciate people who also want their kids to see something that's not just, let's go kill Thanos or these big ideas. I think it's interesting. I liked Shazam for the same thing. So get out there. Go see this movie. Let's get a comeback for this. Thanks for watching. Subscribe.